good. Okay. PowerPoint ተዘጋጅቼ ነበር ግን ለወደፊቱ እናቀርባለን ትተውና መጀመሪያ እኔ በአብዛኞቹ ወጣቶቹ ፈረንጅ ሀገር እንደሌለ ያደጉት እነሱ እንዲገባቸው አብዛኛው ጊዜ አንዳንዶች ነገሮች በስብሰባ ውስጥ በእንግሊዝኛ ቢሆን ብለን ነበር የተስማማነው በስብሰባ። ስለዚህ እኔ አብዛኛው መልእክቱን በእንግሊዝኛ ነው የማስተላልፈው ሁሉም እንዲገባቸው። So I started out with good morning everyone, or good afternoon, sorry. Welcome to the first public meeting of the Ethiopian People's Congress for United Struggle, which in short is Congress, or Shengo, which is the term I'll be using throughout my presentation. My name is, as he presented, Zainawit. I'm here today to share awareness and interest with the interact with the Ethiopian youths in particularly. As we can see, there are not that many youths that are here. I think that in itself is something that I think over time the Shengo perhaps will look into and see what are some of the ways we can bring youth and share the responsibility together. As it is the, so I already said that I'm from, I was born in Ethiopia, but I grew up mainly in the West, but I've never lost my love and concern for the well-being of our motherland. This is so much easier. I believe the youth of Ethiopia, as the future generation of our nation, we must carry the responsibility of educating ourselves on matters and issues that concern our motherland, and strive alongside our parents, our aunts and uncles to bring about solution. The aim of the Shengo is to bring all Ethiopians, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and religion, to find solutions for the existing problems in our country. Some of you are here today probably wondering, what is the motivation behind the Shengo? What is all this about? Striving to come for unity and bringing about peace. Well, to me, or as I think we're all here for the same goal, is the motivation is love. We're here today out of love and concern for our people. We're out here out of love and concern for our country, out of love and concern for our culture, and out of love and need to preserve the integrity of our honorable history. You see, peace does not happen on its own without enough people caring to stand up for it. Because of what you really have, as it is the case presently in Ethiopia, is submission, obtained by repressive dictatorship. What exists in Ethiopia is not peace, but an easy silence, in form of learned helplessness, which needs to be revoked to bring about social justice, thus peace. I believe my generation needs to be an advocate for such worthy cause. We often seem to hold on to historical achievements of the glorious times and numb out the recent decades that put us to shame. However, in order to move forward, we must draw from strength, courage, and wisdom of our inspirational ancestors, while at the same time make efforts to learn from past mistakes, failures, and tragedies. So then we can begin to envision holistically and become active participants of building a brighter future for the coming generations of Ethiopians. My fellow young Ethiopians who are here, I beg you not to let our generation go down in history as one of passivity and self-interest. At present, our country is faced with several social conditions that, such as of poverty, selling of our ancestral lands, and of political oppression and lack of free speech. I often wonder to myself, how long should many of us live in poverty, how many of our people should live in poverty and starve to death before a real substantial change can be brought about in Ethiopia? Secondly, despite the current regime's attempt of handing out large tracts of fertile land to neighboring countries and foreign investors by forcibly removing the inhabitants of their own lands, in which not even holy places like Waldaba Monastery are spared. To me, and I hope it's the same to every single one of you here, Ethiopia is not and will not be for sale. These are some of the reasons for why all Ethiopians, irrespective of age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and religion, must unite against the current separatist regime. As TPLF, also known as EPDRF, have thrived for the past 2 decades on such methods as divide and rule, and also mainly responsible for creating and fostering intercommunal conflicts among Ethiopians of various ethnic and religious groups. The only way of ensuring a substantial and long-lasting change in Ethiopia is through the democratization of political power. The repressive acts of eliminating political opponents limits the people's choice by disempowering the people as well as undermining democracy. In addition to political oppression, the current regime also suppressed freedom of expression. It imprisoned, forced to leave their country, and even killed several journalists whenever any of them dared to report anything remotely critical of the regime or went against the regime's or their allies' interests. But we must remember, freedom of speech is our God-given right. It is one of the basic human rights which no one should deny or violate its exercise. Of course, with freedom comes responsibility. Those of us with the liberty to state our mind have increased responsibility to be the voice of the voiceless and advocate on their behalf. However, before any of us strive to change the nation, each of us need to pause and reflect on ourselves. We must first change ourselves by replacing our fear, pain, pessimism, disappointments, and hesitation with courage, determination, vision, and hope. Hence, my brothers and sisters, what seems to be our toughest and biggest challenge of all is the battle that exists in our mind, to engage or not. Before you ponder over that question, I invite you all to ask yourself and take into consideration, how many more must be imprisoned and or killed before we unite and advocate for justice? How many more land must our country be robbed of before we say it is enough? How long will we choose to live in fear before we find the courage within each of us to stand up against such nationwide oppression as it has existed for the past 2 decades in Ethiopia? The Shengo is a response to the demands brought on by the injustice inflicted upon our people by the members and supporters of the current regime. It has 5 guiding principles, which has been mentioned in Amharic, but I think it's important to mention in English for the youth and others to understand. I'll say that very quickly. The first one is the accepting the inviolability power of the Ethiopian people and the unity and integrity of the country. The second one is respecting the law of the rules of the law, meaning no one should be above the law. Third one is accepting a democracy, a system of governance for our society, people, and country. The fourth one is believing in the equality of all Ethiopian citizens. And lastly, the fifth one is believing in the removal of the current dictatorial regime and replacing it with a democratic political system that is ultimately accountable to the people. To achieve this, we must never be discouraged or give up. Our people deserve better, and we need to come together and demand a fair and righteous system of governance. If we don't, then who? For how long can we tolerate the injustice and brutality meted out on our people? My fellow young Ethiopians, we must carry on the torches of our brave ancestors and join the struggle to be part of making history in our time, one which we can be proud of and be able to share with our children and our grandchildren. A final comment that I have to make is to share with you why I'm here, why I'm passionate and involved, and despite getting, a lot of people telling me, don't get into politics. You have to understand that's one of the things why there are not a lot of youth here. Parents telling us, you don't want to go there. Parents who've lost many of their children, who've lost their brothers and sisters back home. And that's the fear that I'm talking about. Even here in the West, the past haunts us in the present. And the reason for me, though, despite of it, being here has to do with the fact something that I can never shake off. That's something that's always in my heart and my mind. It has to do with the fact that I'm here in the West. It could be out of luck, privilege, or because I was blessed. However, my fate could have easily been like that of my brothers and sisters who are suffering in our motherland in dire and desperate conditions. And I can never forget how lucky I am and how everyone deserves that as well, not just me. I believe if any of us were in their place, we would also have wished or hoped that someone who is in a better place or position in life would fight for our basic human rights of liberty and equality. So I ask every one of you to always be driven by that same level of love, empathy, and wisdom, which I know many of you have for our beloved people and country. I was thinking that.